Hey, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Storytime with Scarish Podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And today we're here with some new homegrown horrors. It's supposed to be new every week, right? But one of these stories is really, really long, so I hope you guys are gonna strap on and join us on this episode. And yeah. Adam, why don't you tell us what homegrown horrors are?
There we go. I've been waiting for the prompt this whole time. Homegrown horrors are the stories that have been sent in by the wonderful listeners and viewers such as yourselves that have happened to you, a friend, a family member, and they can be something that's supernatural, spiritual, coincidental, sometimes true crime, sometimes extraterrestrial in nature. Robin, for folks who had a story and they're like, man, I'd really like for them to read it on the show, how can they get it to us?
You can send it to our email, storytime@scarish.com. You can go to our website, scarish.com, and fill out that contact us form, and it'll send it to us that way.
Indeed. So there's plenty of ways you can reach out to us. We would love to hear from you either way. Like Robin said, we have one really long one. So the plan is for me to read one, and then for Robin to read half of hers, and then commercial break, and then for Robin to read the last half of hers, and then for me to read the other one. So that is what we're going to do. So I'll go ahead and jump into my first email of the night. And this one is from Natalie, and its subject is sleep paralysis? ? So let's see how this goes. It starts out by saying, okay to read on the pod, which is always nice to see. But it goes like this. Hi, Adam and Robin.
Hello.
Hello. We did it out of order. As I said hello, I was like, I'm saying hello for the Robin part of that. So, weird. Anyways, my name is Natalie, she, her. I previously sent a story about a coyote killing cats on my roof. I remember that. It was traumatic. I have many more stories that I want to share with you guys, but I don't know how often I should send them, so I will try to pace myself. Today, I would like to share my sleep paralysis stories. Okay, so I don't know if these actually count as sleep paralysis because they don't follow the usual format. But they were really scary, and I couldn't move, so I think of them as sleep paralysis. I mean, technically, I think as long as you're paralyzed and you're waking up or like half asleep, that counts as sleep paralysis. I'm not sure, there's a lot of different things that people see, so let's get in here and we'll give our take on it. They also vary from my usual dreams because my dreams tend to be like I'm watching a movie. I think it's because I read and watch a lot of sci-fi and fantasy. So even when it's something scary, I'm never actually scared because I know somehow it's a dream. Sorry if I ramble, the first one is kind of confusing. First story I'm going to call The Dino and the Closet. And the closet, not in the closet.
I mean, dinosaurs could be in your closet, you don't know.
I mean, we're going to find out. The first one happened in my late teens. So, quick setup at this point. My room had a giant closet with mirror doors that covered almost the entire wall except for a small piece between the closet and the door to leave the room. Then there was a window in the wall opposite the closet, and my headboard was on this wall with my back to the window and facing the closet. Okay. Can you picture this with your mind's eye? I'm picturing a wall covered in mirrors, and then your bed on the opposite side, where like your footboard's pointing at the mirrors,
okay,
and the headboard's against the opposite wall.
Okay.
Now, being a lot like Robin, I've always absolutely hated mirrors, so my mom painted the doors so I wouldn't have to look into it in the middle of the night. Okay, on to the story.
So instead of getting rid of them,
they just
painted over the mirror. I feel like that's creepier. Right? Like, if you paint black paint over a mirror, that's terrifying. Because then what if you...
How do you know it's black paint, Robin?
Okay, even white paint. As you're scraping paint off, because that paint will not stay on that mirror, you're going to be scraping, peeling paint off, and then just little peaks of mirror, right?
Yeah.
And then what if you see something...
When, like, the paint starts to fleck off and having, like, reflective surface on the underneath, I agree with you there. Okay. Yeah, that would be super creepy. All right, getting back to it. Says, okay, so on to the story. So I'm trying to fall asleep, and I kind of open my eyes, and I see coming from the side/under the bed, a hand come up and kind of clutch the cover. I'm startled, so I kind of jump and quote-unquote wake up. I wake up and see the hand was just the covers kind of bunched up, so I try to go back to sleep, and again I see the hand, only this time it grabs my arm hard. I quote-unquote wake up, and the hand is gone, but I can still feel the hand grabbing my arm like it's invisible. I'm terrified, of course, and I once again, quote-unquote, wake up. Side note, when I say wake up, it's not like I open my eyes and then the next thing happens right away. Every time I wake up, I kind of sit up and I'm terrified. Then I start calming down and I'm feeling relieved that I was only dreaming. And then after what feels like a few minutes, shit hits the fan again. I'm guessing shit hits the fan again means they go to sleep. Or they go back to sleep. Because it says wake up in this email like 40 times.
Okay.
All right. So now we know what wake up means. Okay, so I wake up again, and this time after a few minutes, I feel something grab my arm, and it's kind of like something is sitting behind me and holding me down against itself. I can't move, and I can't scream, but somehow I know that the thing behind me looks like a pterodactyl, the flying dinosaur with the pointy beak and head. I don't know how this is, because I can't turn to see it, so as I'm laying there half sitting up, not able to move, I see the closet door slowly begin to open. Again, I quote-unquote wake up and the whole thing starts again. I feel relieved it was a dream, then I feel the claws holding me down and I try to move or scream, but I can't. Then I notice the closet door slowly opening and somehow I know there's a little boy in the closet and he's opening the door, but I can't see him. I just somehow know. So it sounds like they're caught in like a cycle of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Where they keep kind of waking up and then kind of falling back into it. I don't know how many times this repeats, but it was many, many times.
That's why I don't like to go back to sleep when I have a nightmare, because I'm afraid I just go back into the nightmare.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me multiple times where I fall asleep really quickly and I go back into the same nightmare, and that sucks. Eventually, I finally woke up for real. For days after, I was afraid that I was still asleep and that I would never wake up for real. This was before I saw the movie Inception, so that couldn't have influenced my dreams, but it did freak me out again and made me wonder if I had ever really woken up when I finally saw it. If I didn't, then I have a great imagination to come up with you guys because you guys are awesome.
Aw, thanks.
Thank you. Second story I'm going to call As My Brother Screams for Help. That's a creepy title.
Yes.
Okay, so this happened after the first story, but I can't remember if it was months or years after. So one day, my sister needed my mom to take her kids to school and to pick them up after. My sister lives kind of far, and the kids' school was right behind her house. So rather than come home and go back, my mom was just going to spend the day there, and I decided to go with her since I didn't have to work that day. We woke up pretty early, and I had worked a closing shift the day before, so I was pretty tired. So after the kids were gone, I decided to take a nap in my niece's room. Side note, I don't know if this had some effect, but it adds a touch of weirdness maybe, that all my niece's furniture was the same furniture I had in my room at the time of the first incident, because it was this beautiful pearl-colored kind of princess-looking furniture, and my parents convinced me to give it to her because I was quote-unquote too old for it. Anyways.
You can have whatever furniture you want.
Right? You're a grown-ass woman. Anyways, at one point, I was sleeping, and I hear someone come in. It was my little brother, and he proceeds to try to wake me up. I felt like I was awake, but I couldn't open my eyes or move or say anything. He started to shake me, and his voice was getting more and more desperate, and as anyone with a younger sibling, especially a much younger sibling, knows, there's this need to protect them almost like they are your own child, and to hear that fear in his voice while he begged me to wake up was heartbreaking and terrifying at the same time. I don't know how much time passed, but sometime later, I woke up and everything was quiet. I got out of bed, and it was around 10 a.m. maybe at this point. I went looking for my brother to see if he was okay and tell him sorry for not waking up. I found my mom sleeping on the couch, and I was about to wake her to ask where he was when I remembered it was a school day and we had dropped him off before ever going to my sister's, and he was never there at all. This one was scarier than the first because it felt so real, and I really thought something had happened to my little brother.
Aww.
Anyways, thanks for reading. Hope it wasn't too long. Love you guys. I will be sending more stories your way as soon as I have time to write them down. Nat. Well, that was really good. I appreciate folks sending in stuff because there's always like that weird area between like dreams and being awake where you're not sure if it qualifies as sleep paralysis and you're not sure what's going on with it. I think what it really comes down to is if you cannot move and you're waking up out of a dream, that for me is sleep paralysis in a lot of different ways. So I don't really think there's needs to put too many labels on it. Like there's people that say like, oh, it's not sleep paralysis if you don't see the old hag, you know, because it's old hag syndrome. Mm-hmm. It's like, I've never seen the old hag. That doesn't mean that I'm not terrified when I wake up and I can't move and my body is frozen. Like it's just as scary or if you're hallucinating a demon instead of the old hag or something completely different. So either way, those are two scary instances. So thank you so much for sharing them with us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. I am one to have pretty vivid nightmares when I do have them. I try not to have. You can't really control it, right? I just hope I never do. And the fact that you had one where it was like you were never waking up, that's just absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, the endless cycle of not knowing if you're awake is definitely super freaky. I pinch myself a lot if stuff's going really weird in my day. I'll like pinch myself to be like, is this a dream? Just in case. It's just like if some like weird scenario happens, like I mentioned this yesterday, but at my graduation after college, we were all just hanging out and like the clouds came in out of nowhere and it got really stormy. And then like this giant fucking pelican like flew in and landed on the deck in the backyard next to my brother. And I was like, is this really happening? Because I've never seen a pelican ever anywhere near where I lived. Because it wasn't that close to the lakefront where like you would see a pelican. Mm-hmm. And two, it would just randomly land next to my brother who was not doing well at that time. He was in a very poor mental state. And I'm like, he definitely thinks this is fucking weird. And I think this is weird. So like pinch myself. I'm like, yep, that hurts. I'm awake. Something fucking weird is happening right now. And it's not a dream. So I tend to pinch myself pretty often just to make sure. So
cool.
It's my totem. Now everyone knows. Oh no, it'll be used against me. I actually do have the fucking top from Inception sitting on my desk right now that I use as like a fidget spinner. But anyways, thank you for sending that in.
All right, so the subject of this next email is my Clinton Road story or the time a ghost boy stole my wallet. So it begins. Greetings, spooky friends.
Greetings.
Hello.
And all you folks also have to yell greetings right now.
No. Imagine just being in a coffee shop or something.
Greetings! Everyone just like looks at you.
Who the fuck is this alien?
What if someone's like, hey, greetings, and then that's how you met their mother? I've been watching How I Met Your Mother again. Anyways.
It's been a while since I've sent you a homegrown horror, but you two just made an episode about Clinton Road, so I felt the need to share my experience on the road with you. This is a pretty long one, though I know literally every email you get says that. As always, you can share this on the pod if you want. This one is genuinely long.
It is.
But I'm not going to complain about that.
So it's getting split.
But in the same email, or in the same episode. So, about 6 to 8 months ago, a friend of mine wanted to do something fun for her birthday. I'm not sure where the idea came from, but this friend, we'll call her Sarah, decided that she wanted to drive down Clinton Road at night. If it wasn't clear based on my podcast preferences, I am always down for something creepy or macabre, so I said yes. A couple of our mutual internet friends had actually flown in from other states to spend the week hanging out and doing birthday things, but one of them did not want to go. He told us that he'd always been very spiritually sensitive and he, quote-unquote, doesn't fuck with that shit. So he decided to just stay at the hotel and hang out with us when we got back.
I respect that.
He was the smart one of our group. Now that you have a little exposition, I'll go through our cast of characters. All of these names have been changed, but the rest of the story is true. There was myself, my friend, who we'll call Sarah, her boyfriend, we'll call him Mike, and our mutual 2 internet friends, we'll call them John and Mary. Hilarious choices of names. John is the one who decided to stay at the hotel. So in total, it was just myself, Mary, Sarah, and Mike going for this trip. The 4 of us got into Mike's car and hit the road. Mike was driving and Sarah was in the passenger seat with myself and Mary in the back seat. After about 40 minutes of driving, we hit the start of Clinton Road. At this point, the sun was almost down, so the mood was right for a fun night of Scooby-Dooing.
Wow.
To be honest, things were pretty normal for the first mile or so of road. It's a long, unlit road in a rural-ish area of New Jersey, so other than our headlights, it was pitch black.
Here, everything's legal in New Jersey.
When we looked out of the windows, there was nothing but dark, imposing forest on either side of us, and no cars behind us. It was very clear why this road could freak people out. As we drove, Sarah Googled Clinton Road and started telling us all the same ghost stories most locals share with each other. We heard about everything from ghosts to the Jersey Devil to rabid feral cannibals. Though I do believe in paranormal stuff, I'm also very much a skeptic and prefer to try to find logical solutions to something before immediately calling it a ghost. That being said,
oh no, I'm possessed and I'm blind.
That being said, while I didn't believe a majority of the stories Sarah was reading us, I did feel an eerie sense of being watched while we were driving. As we drove, shadows would shift in the woods and play with my imagination. Did that tree just move? Was that a log or a person? Is that a bush or a predator hunched over for a meal? All of this was going through my head as we continued along down the road. Sarah rattling off stories of phantom trucks and hellhounds, and then we came across the famous Ghost Boy Bridge. The story, as we knew it, was a young boy had fallen over the bridge, or been pushed, and drowned in the water below. Supposedly, if you offer the boy's ghost a coin, he'll return your money to you. I've also heard claims that if you sit on the railing of the bridge with your legs dangling, the ghost of the boy will pull you back onto the bridge so you don't fall.
I've also heard you'll get shoved off because I heard that he had been knocked off because he got hit by a car. I'm the one that covered this topic, by the way. So.
Another version of the legend says that if you throw a coin over the bridge, the ghost will toss it back to you. But I digress. For our trip, we decided to do 2 different coin offerings. One of us would get out at the bridge and leave a coin in the center of the road, and then toss another coin over the bridge. I guess we figured we'd increase our odds of experiencing something if we tried 2 methods. Well, of course, I was the one who was voted to get out of the car and actually do the deed. I had some change in my pocket, so I asked Mike to pull over right before the bridge so I could get out. I stepped out of the car, and for the first time, I truly felt scared. Other than the humming of the car engine and the trickling of the running river, it was eerily silent. I heard maybe a few crickets, but there felt like there wasn't enough noise. Looking into the woods on either side of the road, the darkness felt almost palpable, like it was a solid mass. Already scared but too committed to nope out, I walked a few yards to the bridge and stood in the center. I bent down and placed a coin in the center of the road, right between the double yellow lines, and said some words to whatever was there. I then turned around and walked to one of the bridge's railings. I put a quarter on my thumb and flipped it over the railing like the referee at a football game. Again, I said a few words. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something along the lines of, "If you're here with us, this is for you. We don't want any trouble. We're just curious." After flipping the quarter off the bridge, I stood there and waited for something to happen. I don't know what I expected, but I just waited for a few moments. After I was satisfied that I'd waited long enough, and before I stayed long enough for whatever might be out there to get me, I turned around and got back into the car. We drove for maybe another 10 or 15 minutes after that. All of us had our eyes peeled, looking into the forest on either side of the road, eager to get a glimpse of a ghost or an axe-wielding murderer. To our disappointment, we saw nothing. Eventually, we reached the end of the road and had to turn back. At this point, it was probably midnight, and we still had a little bit of a drive to get back to Mary's hotel where we'd met up, so we were originally just going to turn around and head back. However, Sarah had different plans. Every friend group has that one friend who just likes to have a good time and wants to keep the party going. Sarah is that friend.
Interesting. I'm wondering if I'm that friend in my group of friends.
As we're heading back, Sarah decides she wants to find an old structure that was supposedly in the woods along Clinton Road. The internet referred to it as a druidic temple, as well as claiming it to be the site of demonic cult sacrifices. So naturally, we wanted to see this supposed demonic altar.
The structure exists, it is not that, in case you haven't listened to the Clinton Road episode.
The 4 of us do some Googling and find out that the location of the structure is actually pinned on Google Maps. So Mike drives us to the section of the road where the pin is, and we pull over. Mike puts it in park and cuts the engine, and we're swallowed in darkness as the car's headlights go out. I thought it was quiet on the bridge, but now that we were in the middle of nowhere with no light and no running engine, the silence was palpable. However, Sarah was undeterred. She turned on the flashlight on her phone and started walking into the woods. What? But
bye,
why?
Sarah.
Bye. The 4 of us formed a line and ordered a fan out. Remember, it was dark as hell, and we didn't know exactly what we were looking for, so we didn't want to just walk right by it by accident. This meant that each of us stood about 10 to 15 feet away from the next closest person with
is a mistake.
With only our phone lights to navigate. Think of how search parties fan out in the woods. That's how we were separated to cover as much ground as we could. We continued walking in the general direction of the Google Maps pin and eventually came across a large stone structure surrounded by a chain link fence. The fence had a gate with a lock on it, but 2 feet to the right, a tree had fallen on a section of fence and crushed it like a tin can, so we were able to step over it. As we approached this temple, we were able to get a better look at it. It was a tall structure made of stacked stone that was about the height of a 2-story house. It was located directly off of a different part of Clinton Road, but it would not have been accessible from that portion of road. A large section of the structure had collapsed and spilled heavy stones everywhere. It seemed to me like the fence was probably to keep people like us out so that the temple wasn't further damaged and nobody got hurt. We walked around the area for a little bit and checked it out. Sarah got some photos for Instagram, and I did a short EVP session to pass the time. We listened to the audio later and nothing was on it. And we're going to stop it here, take a commercial break, and then we're going to come back in for the rest of the story.
Perfect. Spoilers, I'm pretty sure it's a furnace.
All right, so continuing on with the story. Now at this point, we hadn't really encountered anything creepy other than the eerie energy of being out in the woods alone at night. Needless to say, I was a bit less wary at this point, and I'd let my guard down a bit. As Sarah was finishing up her photo shoot, I realized I need to pee. I call out to my friends to tell them I'm going to take a break and then start walking maybe 10 or 20 yards away from the group. I find a nice tree and start doing my business. I do my thing, walk back to the group, and we decide to head back to the hotel where we started our adventure. As we're driving back, my tiny bladder starts to scream again, and I ask Mike to pull over real quick so I can take another leak. So this time, since we're on the edge of the woods, I just walk into the tree line a little bit, and I'm obscured from the view of the car. As I'm doing my thing, I hear some twigs break and some leaves crunch deeper into the woods. As I said before, I tend to try to be logical, so I just try to chalk it up to some unseen woodland creature running away from the big humans on the side of the road. I got back into the car and we headed back. We finally got back to the start of the road, and at this point, Sarah and Mary needed to use the bathroom. Mike pulled into a little convenience store. Sarah and Mary ran in. It's at this point that I realized something. My wallet was gone. I immediately try not to panic and start searching the car. I tell Mike I lost my wallet and he gets out to help me search. We checked everywhere. Under the seats, between the center console, even the parking lot around Mike's car because I'd stepped out to stretch my legs. No dice. And no wallet either.
Nice.
At this point, it's probably 1 a.m. and none of us want to go back up Clinton Road and retrace our steps through the dark woods. Not to mention I was still about a 3-hour drive from home, so I had a long night ahead of me regardless.
Holy shit, dude.
Sarah and Mary come back from the convenience store and the four of us just decided to go back to the hotel. I figured I hadn't seen my wallet since we left, so I could have set it down in the hotel or dropped it in the lobby. When we get back to the hotel, the wallet is nowhere. The front desk person hasn't seen it. It wasn't in my car or in the lot. It wasn't turned into the lost and found, and it wasn't in the hotel room. By this time, it's 1:30 or 2 a.m., and I just want to get home and go to sleep. So I decided to cut my losses and get on the road home. On the way home, I pulled over at a rest stop and used the restroom. Again, tiny bladder. Now, this place was abandoned at this point. When I walked in, there were maybe 3 people working at the few fast food restaurants that were still open at this point. I mentioned how empty it was because the next thing that happened was very weird. As I'm walking in, one of the vending machines on the wall spits out a crisp $5 bill. It was as if someone had fed it into the machine and the machine rejected it. Except the bill was perfect, and there was nobody anywhere near the vending machines that could have fed it, and the machine had just spat the bill out. I remembered the legend of the ghost boy and how he gives you back your money, so I decided to take the $5 bill. But the story doesn't end there. For the next week after that, I had the worst streak of bad luck. I dropped and broke things, spilled things everywhere, even fell into a small, shallow brook while on a walk in the park near my house. That last incident stands out as the most odd because I walk those woods near my house all the time, and I'm very used to all the normal animal and people noises that happen there.
So in the end, he did get shoved into the water.
For that whole first week back, every walk I took was eerily quiet. There weren't even that many bugs around, and as I walked, I would hear random twigs breaking in the woods. It always sounded like whatever was breaking the twigs was just a little too far into the woods for me to see. On the day I fell in the water, I was walking a path I always walk, when I heard some more branches breaking in the thicker part of the woods just past a small runoff stream. I took a few steps forward and felt thrown off balance out of nowhere. My feet slipped and down I went into the water. Thankfully, it was only maybe 2 feet deep, so I was able to climb out and walk home, if not a little soggier and grumpier than when I'd left. Between the loss of my wallet, the weird $5 bill, feeling incredibly uneasy in the woods near my house, and now falling into a brook, just like the ghost boy allegedly did, I was starting to think maybe I'd pissed something off when we went to Clinton Road. I did my best to be respectful, but I don't know how spirits work, so maybe I'd done something wrong. At that point, I was just tired of the bad luck, so I contacted a witch friend for a solution. This friend of mine, we'll call her Aubrey, is a practicing witch. She'd had success before when I'd pay her for spells, so I offered to pay her for a cleansing spell that would get rid of any negative energy or entities.
Do you know what she told them? She told them, ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah. Come on, it's a witch doctor reference. I thought it was pretty funny.
To get rid of any negative energy or entities I may have picked up on our trip. Aubrey agreed and did what she called a quote-unquote redirecting spell. Instead of banishing the energy or spirit, she just redirected all that bad luck and negative energy away from me and back into the universe. The next day, a man texted my work cell telling me his 70-plus-year-old father had found my wallet sitting on the side of Clinton Road. He'd gotten my number off of a business card that was in my wallet. My dad and I drove all the way back out to get it from this nice man, and it still had everything inside. My cash, cards, license, insurance info, everything was still there. The only damage was from the man's father accidentally running it over when he pulled over himself. My license was bent, but that's it. To this day, I'm convinced that something on Clinton Road was messing with me that night. After hearing your Clinton Road episode and doing a little more Googling myself, this is my theory. The Druidic Temple supposedly causes bad luck for those who interact with it. I think that interacting with the temple is what made me lose my wallet and caused all of my bad luck. Later that night, I think the ghost boy gave me the $5 bill and then returned my wallet to me after my witch friend cleared the bad energy from the temple. Then again, it could also all be a coincidence, but that's not as fun. Anyways, that's my Clinton Road story. I still have the wallet and the $5 bill. I'm keeping them as paranormal souvenirs. Maybe it's my main character syndrome, but I feel like I should hold on to the bill in case that boy ever comes back in the future and needs to borrow some money.
Wow.
I'd love to hear what y'all think about my story. Thanks as always for making such great content and for creating such a fun and welcoming community of listeners. Until next time, keep on creeping on, Lunabin. Oh my gosh, I think that theory is just so good because of everything that happened, you know? The fact that the $5 bill got spit out from the vending machine,
weird.
That is so
also,
weird.
For people who own vending machines to find out like that your vending machine is regurgitating $5 bills randomly with no one around it, I would be like, it's just giving my fucking money away.
But like, when you put in a dollar bill,
it
and
comes
it
right
does,
out.
it comes right
That's
out.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this machine kicked out a 5 with no one who had just put it in, which means the 5 had probably been sitting in there and the machine was just like, bleh. Randomly, which is super weird,
so
no matter
weird.
how you try and explain it. So here's the thing. I'm pretty sure the quote-unquote Druidic Temple is actually a stove or like a furnace that was used for... I'm pretty sure it's a historical site, too, at this point. I have to check on that. It's been a while since I did it. I think it's been like 30 episodes or so. I think this was more Ghost Boy Bridge stuff. So, because there's a bunch of different things that you can do just to try and like appease a ghost or get it to appear and all these different stories that we've read. And either way, like, the ghost boy is supposed to be one that, like, plays pranks, and then on top of that is, like, trying to be protective.
Yeah.
So, getting shoved into the water.
Could be a prank. Or protecting you.
That sounds like protective. The wallet thing to me, since it's like, if you expect certain things to happen, like a coin to get thrown back, which I haven't heard the coin getting thrown back. I think that's an exaggeration, because what I've heard is if you throw the coin off the side, you find the coin in between the lines on the road later.
Oh.
So maybe you threw the coin. The ghost boy was like, there's already a coin there. I guess I take your wallet. I don't know. So, or it was all a bunch of coincidences.
Like I think hearing the weird twigs snapping, I think that is kind of creepy. Just going through the woods and you just, every time you're in the woods, you hear these twigs snapping.
I always tell myself, because this happens every time I've ever gone to the restroom in the woods, like you hear something in the woods. It's like something thinks you're the predator and it's trying to move to safety, or it's like trying to see what you are. And anytime that happens, I'm just like, look at my dick to the woods, because there's like nothing else you can do to establish dominance.
What the hell? Why?
You didn't hear me say that every time I was peeing when we were camping in Arizona? I was just yelling it just to make sure.
Screaming out into the fucking campsites, like, look at my dick. What the fuck?
Not really. Obviously, I'm joking. Anyways, Lunabin, thank you so much for saying that, and that is an epic tale, and I'm glad you got your wallet back, and shout out to the person who was the Good Samaritan who found it and gave you a call, and yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what are the odds that you would have a business card in your wallet that has your phone number on it?
Yeah.
They could have called any number in your wallet if you had other business cards. My wallet has a bunch of other people's business cards in there.
Same.
So, that's the odds that some guy would, he pulled over to pick up this wallet, you know? I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Indeed.
What are the odds, for real?
So, fun stuff. Good story.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I want to move into our final email of the show, and this one's subject is Storytime submission. Why do you have to hold my hand? As soon as I start reading, you don't hold my hand during the other sections. You just want to hold my hand and grope my inner thigh as soon as I start reading on the air.
That's why I asked you, why are you so sexy?
Excuse me. It goes like this. Adam and Robin.
Hello, that's us.
There's no hello, it's just Adam and Robin. You is how I will return that to you. Hello and thank you for a podcast that finally gave me and my supernatural loving husband something fun to listen to together.
Aw, nice.
To make him a touch more proud of me, I wanted to share a family tale for Storytime. Now, it's important that before we get rolling that I give a disclaimer here. I'm not sure if my family is more Catholic or more storyteller. Keeping that in mind...
I think as a Catholic, you have to be both.
Kind of. I wouldn't just discount them. I agree. It's because I was trying to read still. And anyways. Keeping that in mind, I'm recounting this experience as best I can, but there's likely a creative flourish somewhere in the story of Spook. Now, Spook is a ghost/spirit/being that I think is an entity after Adam's own heart.
All right.
I say this because Spook dealt in peak-level mischief. My grandparents, 2 uncles, and mom moved into a quaint little craftsman house in a historic neighborhood of a small Mississippi town.
All right.
This location will become more relevant upon the discussion of screen doors and rocking chairs.
Okay.
Soon after moving in, the teenage boys became convinced that their dad was pranking them by hiding trinkets and making silly noises. Their dad was convinced the teenagers were being teenagers and their mom was just annoyed by them all. As time moved on, it became clear there were no pranks or shenanigans, at least from the humans in the house. Enter Spook. As with most Southern American tales, Spook came by his name honestly. The parents of the house told the classic... God damn it. The parents of the house told the kids, don't you worry about it, he's just trying to spook you is all. He was spookin', you ask? What?
How was Spook spookin'?
Sorry, how not who. How was Spook spookin', you ask? In all the fun classic ways. Spook liked to keep everyone on their toes by moving chairs. The moving rocking chairs on the porch could have been the wind, but the dinner table chair being pulled out from under my uncle while he was going to sit down to dinner was a little harder to explain.
That's weird.
Yeah. The true cue that they were dealing with something quote-unquote unknown came at the most private of times. Spook seemed to like to flush the toilet before the user finished their business.
I'm okay with that, though.
Yeah, courtesy flushing. Like, yeah, Jesus Christ,
it's a
stinky
thing.
In here.
Like, if you guys are taking a deuce, if you're dropping a deuce in the bathroom, in public, please courtesy flush.
This is in private, but yeah, good
No,
good
but I'm just saying, rule of thumb, just flush it.
I don't want to get into toilet etiquette, but yeah. I mean, there's a lot of rules that I have for toilet etiquette, which is why I don't want to get into it.
You have a lot of rules?
We'll get off on a long tangent. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, just be courteous. That's what they all really come down to.
If it's going to be noisy, please flush before the noise begins.
There was someone, God, I'm not going down this. All right.
Okay.
Here we go. Flush on the toilet. But he was at least respectful and never disturbed the ladies of the house.
The ladies.
He was equal opportunity, though, when he enjoyed opening the front screen door when the family spent time in the living room. As Spook shenanigans continued, items began disappearing around the house, namely a Bible, rosaries, some prayer cards, and even a bottle of holy water.
Okay.
Staples of a good Catholic household. My grandmother, a woman of short patience and a quick mouth, was getting pretty aggravated that this cute little house was becoming such a nuisance. One evening, while the family spent some time in the living room with Johnny Carson, Spook struck again. For those of you who don't know, Johnny Carson used to host The Tonight Show.
Who's the guy that hosts that show on MTV?
Carson Daly?
Oh, okay.
The opposite of Johnny Carson and fucking coolness.
Okay.
He flew the front door wide open. This was it. This was the breaking point for my grandmother. She snapped and called out, "Listen, Spook, if you're going to live in my house, you're going to live by my rules. When you open a door, you close a door." Spook, like the dutiful spirit he was, obliged and closed the door instantly.
Wow.
That was the family sign that maybe, quote-unquote, historic character was overrated and that a move to the suburbs was their next stop. While moving, the mystery of the missing Catholic paraphernalia was solved. My youngest uncle decided that he needed all these items to protect him and had created a Vatican-authorized protective barricade around his bed. When the missing items had been noticed earlier, he feigned ignorance lest his brother torment him for the rest of his life. All items were returned, and I'm sure the family priest re-blessed a few. This story lives on in the family, most notably through my mother, who seemed to narrowly miss every spook show. I believe this has been internalized by a deep desire to find another ghost and tell them to, quote, go to the light. She tried this once on a tour of the Myrtles Plantation, the most haunted home in Louisiana, but the ghost must have been otherwise occupied that afternoon. Maybe she'll catch one someday. Hope Spook gave you a laugh or two. Keep on creeping on. Best, Valerie.
Having a chair pulled out from under you while you're in it is terrifying.
Yeah.
That is not a just made up ghost story at that point. That's something that actually happened.
I will say, I've pulled that prank before. And as soon as the person falls, it's not fucking funny.
Like, did you saw the leg off so that it would snap when they sat on it?
No, I pulled the chair. I didn't destroy the chair. As soon as the person went to sit down, I pushed the chair with my foot so that they would not have any chair under their ass, and they just fell on the ground. And when they rocked back, they slammed their head into my desk because it was in school. And
did you keel this person?
Yeah, I keeled them. And my history teacher just looked at me and they're like, go to the office and take him with you because the nurse was in the office.
Was he bleeding?
No, he hit his head and he started crying. And so we walked down. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I thought it'd be funny. I didn't realize you're gonna hit your head. He's like, it's okay. And I got down there and they just kept me for the rest of the class in detention. He went to the nurse. They're like, you're fine. You might have a concussion. Just make sure you stay awake. Blah 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 blah. And they sent him back to class.
You making fun of me for saying keel.
Keel.
In that one show, Forged in Fire, that's how he says it. This knife will kill.
Oh, I didn't realize that's who you were quoting. My bad. So, either way, thank you so much for saying that story, Valerie. That's a solid story of a family ghost.
Yeah. Man, just the idea of being haunted, right, by a ghost when moving into a new home. And then when your grandma's like, stop spooking, then the door slams shut.
Well, it's when I read it, I pictured the door closing. As I thought about it more, I pictured don't open my doors unless you're going to close them. And then bam, like a kid slamming the door fuck you, you're not my real dad.
Right.
So either way, it definitely would be super creepy, but it's super interesting to hear about it since it didn't happen to us, which is nice.
Yeah, I don't want it to ever happen to me.
All right, cool. Thank you so much one more time for sending that in. So I want to thank everyone who wrote in this week. We sincerely appreciate it when you send these stories to us because you're sharing a piece of your history or a friend or a family member's history. Especially these long stories. You have to take time out of your day to freaking write those all out, and we're so thankful. Indeed. So thank you so much. If you have a story you would like to share with us, you can email storytime@scarish.com or go to our website, scarish.com, and click on Contact Us. Fill out that form. It comes directly to us, or hit us up on our social medias. Facebook is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Twitter is @scarishpod. And Instagram is @scarishpodcast. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so? You can go to patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Those are monthly donations. Tiers start at $1. If you're not into the monthly donation type thing, you can also go to coffee, ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast. And those are one-time donations. Indeed. We hope to hear from you. We hope to keep providing you all with these fun episodes, so definitely send us the stories, because that's how we're able to read them. And I think that's just about everything I have for this episode of Storytime. So Robin, why don't you go ahead and sign us out? Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye. Bye.